Okay, well, welcome, Craig, and welcome everyone at home to this inaugural episode of Become a 10. I'm here with Synthesist and Yasuke, who you know and love. Say hey, fellas.
Hey, fellas.
Hello, fellers.
We're talking about working out. Now we've lost half the audience immediately, but we have this idea that modernity is rotting our brains, and it's crushing our spirits and killing our bodies in various ways. And so we three have decided to marshal what remains of our agency and fight back. But our ideas and our philosophies and our push to remember tradition or anything like that is only as good as the physical representation of it. And that's why we're talking about working out, among other things. Synthesist, as we know, we call him Fatty around here, which is funny to me, but he has this idea of working out, lifting weights, bringing order to chaos. You want to speak on that, Fats?
Yes, but before that, I want to preface this by answering or at least exploring the question on what becoming a 10 means. Because there's two ways to take it, where 10 is a tangible thing that we have actual examples of, or 10 is this ideal that nobody can attain, but something to aim for. Either way, the whole idea is that we can improve ourselves. This whole becoming 10 thing arises from AA's idea of becoming an elite. He actually uses the term become a 10. And the whole idea is to become a committed, serious person. And a part of that is through physical exercise, at least in the tripartite of physicality, mental, and spiritual aspects of a person. It is a crucial aspect, it's a crucial piece of that puzzle. Through physical exercise, you can develop the other qualities too. These are not separate things, they all work together. And in fact, if you work the body, you also work the spirit and your mental abilities too. I believe that a healthier person, a physically healthy person, is also a mentally healthy person. At least those two things are correlated heavily. If not, there's a causal relationship between them.
The best way that I would kind of frame that is that your physical body is a manifestation of your mental health and your mental and spiritual sort of like bodies. They're not separate entities, they are one and the same. You can't be spiritually healthy if your body is a mess, and you can't be physically healthy if your spirit is a mess.
We've all seen the memes about physiognomy. We're all aware of it. Don't become one of those memes. We all understand that there's some truth in that pattern recognition. I believe that physical exercise, it's not just a hobby, that's something you do for fun. It's actually a way to fight against chaos because you're ordering your physical being. Through ordering your personal life, you order the world, you order the universe also.
And another way of framing that is that the body is designed to work perfectly. If you have any kind of disease or non-contact injury, that is a fault of your lifestyle not matching up with what is spiritually and physically healthy. Even people who are purported experts within fitness, like NFL athletes, there will be many training days where 4 people will get season-ending non-contact injuries because the philosophy of the way that they're doing their training doesn't line up with what is actually healthy. And it's not like they're doing that to try to become the best of the best athletes. When you look at the best athletes who are able to perform at the highest peaks, they are the ones who don't get injured. LeBron doesn't get injured from just running a circuit. In general, any kind of injury, little nagging back pain, neck pain, shoulder pain, any of these kind of things are things that are caused by your lifestyle. And they can also subsequently be fixed by your lifestyle.
If your body is disformed, your thinking will be disformed also. If you're constantly in pain, you're going to be depressed. That's no surprise. Something that's graceful, beautiful, and technical, something that has rhythm are all what we recognize as great qualities, maybe even virtues. Compared to things like erratic behavior, uncoordinated movement, neurological disorders, these are all chaotic things. Now, we don't want to be too extreme where all chaos is bad or complete order is good, but we can see that there's a lot of chaos in the modern world at the moment. And we can see all these disformed mutants in the world with all their disformed thinking, how it's unnatural, how it's all inverted. It's no surprise that all these people who are super into this sort of singularity movement, who want to upload their consciousness to this cloud, take a look at their bodies. It's a surprise they want to get rid of their bodies and become some cybernetic being. I'm not surprised.
One thing that's interesting about that is looking at all of the billionaires and all of the hyper, super rich and influential people. All of them just have terrible bodies. They're just skinny fat and everything is wrong with them. except for one, which is Jeff Bezos, who's actually jacked. And it's really interesting that saying that he might not necessarily be within that kind of sphere of the hyper elite, which is also why he's the one billionaire at this point that's really acceptable target for hate. Whereas if you try to do that for the owner of Microsoft or something, you can't really do that in the same way.
Well, he's dead. So, in general, you always have to be careful.
Jeff Bezos is jacked?
Yeah, Jeff Bezos is super jacked.
Yeah, he put on a lot of muscle mass over the past couple of years.
After his divorce?
No, it's been for a while.
Okay. Sorry, Jeff. I didn't mean to dog you like that.
It's also because he probably was using TRT. I mean, at that age, these things do work.
Yeah, if you're a billionaire, like you can afford to hire an on-site TRT staff full time.
Yes, and none of them do it.
Yeah. Well, call the lab. I'm going into the vat.
Peter Thiel, actually, I think it's reported he uses TRT for longevity reasons, but he doesn't work out or exercise.
I love it. So that's going to really quick bring us into the next section, which is weightlifting and strength training, which I've done on and off over the years and really started going hard about a year ago. And I love it. I don't know. I mean, I guess if you're making $1 billion a day or making billions a year, I understand why your priorities might slip. But as far as mental health, my consistency, or what's the word? It's like consistency. It's like a flat plane. I'm struggling to put it into words. It's because I haven't worked out yet, you guys.
Plateau,
No.
discipline, I don't know.
Oh, just
Consistency?
yeah, just general mental health is good. I had this thought, like, how many people do you know that lift weights regularly and are consistent without using performance enhancing drugs? How many of them do you know have like a mental disorder or a personality disorder?
That's one thing I see of the just everyday strangers that I meet. The only ones that seem like they kind of mentally have their head on properly are gym bros. People who regularly go to the gym, people who look like they're physically fit. You can tell that their mental state is much healthier. You look at people who are physically unfit, it comes up so much in their mentality. There's going to be so many mental issues, and just with the way that they speak, you can tell from the way that somebody speaks whether or not they're healthy.
You can tell from their eyes, which is something I've noticed having gone into like the peak of my gains. I started noticing people had trouble maintaining eye contact with me, except for the gym bros. Like, they're intense. So that's a little, I don't want to say intimidating, but it's, if you spend all day indoors and then come up on a gym bro, it's a little intense. But at the same time, if you're working out, you go out and you're interacting with people, the skinny beta dudes have trouble keeping eye contact now. And that's something I never noticed.
Yeah, it's all of these things that just can't be avoided. They're just natural things that the weak will submit to the strong.
I think it's also because you're wearing the Hanshin Tigers made by Hugo Boss line. That might be affecting their perception too.
Yeah, that's it. My
Exactly.
Hanshin Tigers Hugo Boss suit with jodhpurs and riding boots is quite intimidating.
Yeah, and they know that they couldn't pull it off even if they bought it.
So you guys would encourage everyone to start lifting weights, right?
It's the most simple thing you can implement to improve your life. Now, there is a cost. You're going to lose your old, fat, weak self. That's what it costs. And it takes some effort, to be honest. Don't go super complicated with it. Just start off simple, even twice a week. Something very simple. Just get used to moving around with your body. Start off with something easy that you enjoy. And over time, you'll adapt. You'll find out what you like, what your goals are. You might even develop bigorexia. You just want to get big. That's all you want to do. You're never big enough. And that's a good problem to have. Or you want to focus on strength only, or you want to be really good at running fast or running long. It doesn't matter. What matters is just start.
Yeah, there are thousands of workouts and hundreds of philosophies. And what we're saying is just pick one and do it. Build slow.
Another thing that you do lose is something I see so much with people in my life that have made it. They've gone on the path and they've gone towards becoming a 10, is they start to not be able to relate to their old friends as much at all. They see that massive disconnect between the making it and not going to make it, where people who are on the track to becoming a 10, they can't relate to the not going to make it people. that also makes them want to get better friends who are there, who can actually support them and encourage them. Because something you see with a lot of people who try to get healthy is that a lot of people in their lives who aren't getting healthy will kind of tear them down and try to rationalize their successes and just make them feel bad about it. Whereas people who are actually good for you are going to be happy that you are succeeding. But yes, everybody should be weightlifting or doing some kind of heavy physical activity that is very strenuous. Weightlifting is one of the best just because of how much it can not only give you a very good amount of muscle mass, but it also just improves the strength of your joints, and it generally makes you a more useful human being. If you're a guy who can help your neighbor or help your friend move, carry all of these big things without any help, just being a useful human being will help everybody around you.
It's also very addicting where you're leveling up every time you go to the gym or every so often, or you want to put on more weight, or you want to lift more weight. It becomes a sort of game where you're constantly improving and constantly trying to level up all the time.
Yeah, that's the biggest underrated aspect of weightlifting. There's a theory that the more wins you get in your life, the more likely you are to get more wins because it's putting you in the mindset of, I am a winner. And a thing about weightlifting is that every time you go into the gym, you are winning. Every time you see your weights going up, or the amount of reps you're doing going up, or the frequency, the amount of rest that you have to do going down, the more and more you get better at weightlifting, the more and more wins you're getting. And that just puts you in such a great mindset to just do anything, really.
Like Sarah said earlier, he was talking about how other people have trouble looking into his eyes because they recognize he's a higher level now. He's someone different. You're not his equal anymore. So you gain this confidence and this positive mentality that you can tackle the world. You have this controlled aggression in you. Your testosterone gets boosted. You become more of a man. You become more masculine. You become somebody who is capable and not someone who's weak, who can't do anything.
Mentally, it produces such a better mind state. Every task I go into is built on this foundation of discipline that I got from weightlifting specifically. And I know that sounds stupid, but if you can go into the gym every day or every other day and pound it out for an hour and a half, I posit that is the cornerstone of being able to do anything. You know it's going to be hard, you know it's going to be painful, you know you have to do it, and you do it anyway. And there's so many other things in life with the similar aspects on different levels that weightlifting prepares you for most of them.
And weightlifting is simple. It's hard, but simple. If you can't do this one simple task that has tremendous improvements on your life, how are you going to ever expect to be able to do harder tasks that are more toward your goals of becoming a 10 or trying to do something great in society if you can't do this one simple thing?
And it's all relative to your specific level at the time. If it's too hard, you're doing too much. If it's too easy, you need to up the intensity. It's always at your level that you need. I don't want to scare people away where it's like, it's an hour and a half. That might sound too much. Start with 30 minutes. If that's too much, 10 minutes. Just go play around with your body or something. But I would recommend getting a squat rack, a barbell set with some weights. It's the easiest thing you can do. Get on a good beginner's program and get used to movement. You don't need to worry about maxing out or anything like that. Just get used to movements, just with the bar. All right, get used to moving around with it, and slowly over time, you'll level up. You would want to lift more weight. You will want to level up.
Yeah, and I would say for our bigger guys, take Fatty's advice definitely and just get used to movement. Get used to that 40-hour walk or an hour walk or 40 hours, or excuse me, 40 minutes should be your minimum. If you're a big dude, see if you can get that 40-hour walk in around the block a couple times or whatever your neighborhood or community offers you. Start with that.
And that's not even something that's necessarily just for your physical body. I wake up, and the second I wake up, I walk my 2 dogs out to the park every morning. The amount of mental clarity and just the kind of state that starts my day in is just tremendous for the amount of work that I can output and the amount of clarity.
The smell of the morning air is like a gift in and of itself.
And another important point is try to not listen to music or audiobooks or this episode of Become a 10 while you're on the walk. Another important aspect is just being able to absorb the nature and absorb what you're kind of being a part of to really ground you.
That's actually a really good point, and that is a problem that I have had lately in that I've got like 125 audiobooks I'm trying to get through. So every waking second, that I have working out or going for walks. I've been listening to that stuff. I gotta say, it's jumbling my mind.
On a wider community level, you're sort of also marking your territory. You're making it aware that there are serious men who are defending this territory so that bad guys won't go in and do some weird stuff. Because they'll see, oh, there's this guy walking around, there's these men walking around. They can recognize it's a good neighborhood. So they're going to think twice before messing around with the people there.
That's interesting. You're on patrol. That's an interesting way to put it.
I mean, in my case, it's me and my two pretty good dogs, and they're dudes, and they're helping patrol the city and literally mark their territory for us.
Are you comfortable sharing what kind of dog they are?
Yeah, I could link a picture. It's an American Terrier pit mix.
Okay.
And then one other is like a medium Japanese dog. I don't know the breed. I'll link a picture real quick.
Okay. That's a fighty boy.
Yes. And then here's the other one. A lot more aggression to make up for the lack of size.
Right. He knows his place. He knows what he has to do.
Yeah.
I love pit bulls. I don't think I'd ever get one, but I grew up around a couple and they're just so much fun.
They are a more aggressive breed that's a little bit more of a fighting dog, and there is value in that.
Sure.
Having a dog that can actually protect you and protect things. The biggest problem with pit bulls is people who can't handle them.
Yes.
And the pit bull thinks that it's the alpha in the situation because it is.
Right.
And so Malfi knows that he is a bitch boy compared to me.
Yes.
So he's very subservient in this aspect.
Yep. All the good pit bulls I know have been raised from puppy, and dominance was established very early on and for long enough until it was well understood that the human is the boss here.
Yes.
Otherwise, I've known some pit bulls that, people that are lackadaisical or don't work out, or drinkers or drug doers, get a couple pit bulls and they turn into problem animals.
Yeah, people just get dogs that don't fit their personality or their lifestyle, and that's the worst thing.
Or specifically environment with pit bulls. If you live in a small apartment duplex and you have 3 pit bulls, you're gonna have a bad time.
They're just not set up for that environment, and so they're gonna lash out.
Yeah, and they're gonna go nuts in that tiny apartment. They're not made for that. They come to the den to sleep, but they don't live in the den.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of, it's a microcosm of what we're talking about with human beings. We're made to go out. We're made to engage in strenuous activity. And a point that Laurentian made recently is that lifting weights is a substitution for manual labor.
Yes.
A couple of us, Fatty and I, we've got computer jobs. Yasuke, one of your gigs is computer time.
Yep.
It's one thing to go out and work 10 hours in a field. If you don't have time for that and your job calls you to sit at a computer or stand at a standing desk, work on something, videos, whatever, the weightlifting is a great congealed, concentrated substitute.
One session of weightlifting that takes an hour, hour and a half can be the same amount of intensity as an 8-hour session of working.
Yep.
And if you're not in a job where you can't work for 8 hours of manual labor, it's a good replacement. It's not the same in other aspects, like the spiritual aspect of when you're on a farm lifting heavy hay barrels or something. There's inherent value behind the act of you lifting, whereas in a gym, the lifting is for the sake of itself. For most people, it's the closest that you can really get. You sometimes have to make compromises and not always chase perfection.
Yeah. And it's also a great cornerstone on which you can build a good diet. And this moves us into our second discussion. Because if you're working out, if you're doing that strenuous activity, it is much easier to eat healthy. Because if you eat garbage, then you're canceling out all that effort, all that strenuous activity by indulging in some chili cheese Fritos or whatever your problem might be. But I found, as a guy who loved chippies, when I started taking my workout seriously, it became a lot easier to just walk by that stuff in the grocery store.
Yeah, and that's the biggest thing is don't buy it at all. Don't have the temptation. And it's a lot easier to not have that temptation when you are actively doing something. And then there's also if I eat this, it's going to make the amount of gains that I made in the gym worthless.
Yep.
Because just like there's 3 pillars of your overall health, mental, physical, and spiritual, there's 3 pillars of your physical health, which is basically like weightlifting, like physical exertion, sleep, and diet. If you don't have any of those 3, then it all falls apart.
Right.
You need to be properly nourishing your body. You are what you eat. And so if you're eating super highly processed fiat food, you are going to become the chippies and the candy. That is going to be who you are.
Did you just use the term fiat food?
Yeah. So I'm a very strong advocate of the carnivore diet. That's something I push pretty hard in my work. And I've been on it for about 2.5+ years. An interesting thing about the carnivore diet, which is basically primarily or exclusively eating animal products, is that its original modern incantation of it existing in the modern world is from the Bitcoin community. And the Bitcoin community saw all of these hyper processed foods and likened them to fiat money. So the super processed foods that you see from like Nestle, basically everything that you see in the grocery store aisles, it's all fiat food. It's all hyper controlled, hyper regulated, has terrible ingredients, not going to be good for you. And so getting off of fiat food and just eating just straight up meat and eggs from a ranch, that's going to improve your physical health just as getting off of the dollar is going to improve your financial health.
I'm going to second that in that Yasuke got me on carnivore, I don't know, I want to say like 4 months ago, maybe 6. I love it. I eat a lot, but I eat a lot of good food. My steak game has really come up. I buy some cheap cuts, I buy some good cuts, but the nourishment level is top.
That's another thing about doing as best as you can. I'm not in a position currently right now to afford super high quality grass-fed, grass-finished beef. So I just get whatever is on sale at the time and get the cheapest cuts that I can get. It isn't really that much more expensive, or it's actually cheaper in many cases than standard diets, because you're not getting all of this other random extra stuff. The biggest cost increases in standard diets is you're getting all of these different random little add-ons and like little snacks. Whereas when you're on carnivore or some other healthy diet, you don't need to snack much at all. You have a healthy, filling meal that keeps you full for a long time.
Yeah, a friend of mine said that if you do snack and snack good, snack well, snack with good things, this carnivore diet, it's a diet, it's not a religion.
No, it's not something like veganism, which is funny because a lot of people who go on something like veganism become vegan. They say they feel good, and that's because they stopped eating shit food for the first time.
Right.
And for a period of time, they're going to be all right, but over time, they're going to develop other problems just by lack of nutrients in other areas.
Because your body has sort of reserves for them. And as soon as those reserves go out, you start having serious issues. 85% of vegans quit within 3 years, primarily citing health concerns. Anecdotally, I've never seen somebody have a bad experience on carnivore. The only people who have had bad experiences are people who weren't even on it. They'll eat a bunch of other random stuff, just having more meat, and then say that the carnivore diet was bad. But that's not really fair.
Yeah, the idea is to cut out all processed food, all chippies, candy, and soda,
Yes.
and fill everything with what? Meat, eggs, water, and milk?
Yep. Basic things, meat, eggs, dairy, pretty much all I have. Nothing really else.
Do you eat cheese?
Yeah, dairy.
Okay.
So like right now, I have a plate of 2 pounds or 3 pounds of T-bone steak cut up with 2 sticks of butter and copious amounts of cheese. And it's just all mixed up. I make one large meal that I can eat throughout the day so that it's much easier for me to sort of get big and eat as much as I can. Whereas some people might enjoy cooking a little bit more than I do and want to cook multiple meals throughout the day, but I just find this to be the most sustainable way for me to do it.
That is your meal for the day.
Yeah, so I do that. And then I also have a couple shakes of raw eggs with heavy cream and milk. I could do like 18 eggs in a day. And then with heavy cream and milk, I can get up to a lot of calories.
That was going to be my next question, like ballpark, how many calories is that for this one day?
I haven't actually mathematically set everything up yet, but I'd assume the range of like 4,000 to 5,000 calories, probably a little bit more.
And that was just out of curiosity. I'm not into calorie counting. I know a lot of people
I'm
are.
not either.
I just don't care.
Yeah, that's another really big thing is that the entire idea of calories in, calories out, which is the predominant weight loss philosophy and strategy that you see everywhere. First off, it's not even true. And second off, it doesn't work. The types of foods that you eat dictate how many calories you burn. And the amount of calories you burn heavily shifts based off of so many other different factors. And losing body fat and gaining body fat isn't something that's necessarily related to the amount of calories you're having. A big issue that comes with people who try to lose weight in the calories in, calories out way, where they're eating like chicken, rice, and broccoli all day, is that after they lose a certain amount of weight, their body will start burning like 1,200 calories a day as a large man. It starts to become impossible for them to actually eat lower than that to lose weight. Whereas on carnivore, you pretty much just naturally lose weight. It goes back to the idea of your body is designed to work perfectly. And humans are designed to eat meat. If you're eating all of this meat and you're eating all of these just healthy foods, your body just naturally becomes healthy. I got my mom on carnivore after some situations. In a month of carnivore, she lost 35 pounds. Other examples of people that I've worked with, one of my people lost 50 pounds in 5 months and is just overall way, way healthier and better fit mentally, physically, and spiritually.
What about you, Fatty? Are you on carnivore yet? Join us.
No, I'm not on carnivore yet. I personally still need carbs to fuel my body. There's various reasons for that. But the point is that people need to get their diet in check. It's a major portion of this formula. And think about it this way. People always buy all this junk food. They waste all of that money on all these different goodies that are essentially the food equivalent of crack cocaine. There's no reason to buy those things, at least not in such amounts. Now you can moderate it, maybe if you're into that, but I highly doubt most people are able to control themselves like that. And generally, people should try to cut fat first before putting on mass, unless you're severely underweight.
Yeah.
When people are thinking like all these different diets, like, oh, that sounds like it costs a lot. Think about it this way. You're paying a little bit more now, so you don't have to pay large medical expenses later on. Just take the recent history, how people had a year and a half to get in shape, to become healthier. What did they decide to do instead? They stay at home on their couches, filling their faces up with all this processed junk food, and they wait for a magic pill to fix everything. That's not going to work in the long term. They're not fixing the problem at its root cause, instead looking for a magic temporary solution that doesn't even work.
The average millennial, ever since the current health thing happened, the average millennial has gained 41 pounds of fat.
It's up to 41?
Yes, that's the average amount of weight gain.
Oh my gosh. Dude, I lost 20 pounds and gained it back as muscle.
Yeah, like it's just completely ridiculous what's sort of happening to people's health. And like Fatty's point that he just said is that what is the cost of your health? Is your health something worth being the thing that you penny pinch on? If you're actually strapped for cash, is there something else that you can sacrifice for your health? From my point of view, my health is priceless. A lot of people ask me, if you were given $1 billion, would you go vegan? And I just unironically would never do that because there's nothing more valuable to me than my health in all aspects. Moderation is never a topic that's talked about with any other kind of drug, but it is talked about with food and sugary processed stuff, which is more addictive than something like cocaine. You would never tell somebody who is a meth addict just to have a little bit of meth. Just have your meth in moderation. If you completely cut things out, you stop wanting them. Because when you eat something, your body adjusts to start wanting that thing more. When you eat hyper-processed sugary foods, the bacteria in your stomach starts feeding off of that and gives you heavy, heavy cravings for wanting those heavy sugary foods. In the past 2.5 years, whenever I have cheated on my diet for social occasions or something, I had massive cravings for the next 3 days for pizza rolls.
It's pizza and donuts.
Yeah, as soon as those 3 days were gone, I had no more cravings anymore. At this point, I don't see all of these snack and junk foods as food anymore. I look at it and it doesn't appeal to me. It doesn't give me any kind of feeling of I need this. Whereas if you try to go the moderation route, you're going to constantly be fighting. Why do you want to fight a battle that you don't need to? Because that takes away your energy from fighting other battles.
Yes, you need to become independent, not dependent on these different drugs.
One of the greatest weapons that I've had against chippies, snack food, garbage food, fiat food, and maintaining my workout is schedule. This is a little bit obtuse, but it helps me. Being a creative, I wish I had made a schedule for my life much sooner. It has to do with productivity. It has to do with sleep. It has to do with diet. Because if I'm not sitting around bored, if I have stuff to do, I'm not thinking about chippies. I'd never heard about the importance of a schedule until I learned it the hard way, and just wasting time, trying to fill that time with things that made my brain feel good. like video games, girls, booze, chippies. Again, you know? So my advice to everyone listening is to do your schedule because you can deviate from it, but then you know what you're deviating from. If you don't know where you're going, all you're going to get is lost.
Yes, people engage in all forms of masturbation when they don't have goals, when they don't have a purpose.
There's the sleep schedule too, as Yasuke said, is get that sleep.
One thing that I do and is really incredibly helpful that has heavily improved my sleep is sun gazing. General concept of right as the sun comes up and right as the sun goes down, just look at it. Just look at the sun for as long as you can bear and kind of like bring it into you. And that will help solidify your circadian rhythm and make it to where a couple hours after it goes dark, you start to get really, really, really sleepy. And one thing for me is that the longer I stay up into those degen meth head hours, the more and more my self-control starts to wane.
Yes, I agree with that. At night is when I start craving junk food.
I wake up with the sun right before it comes up at like 5 a.m. every day, and it's just a great feeling, and it just gives me so much more energy. And also to the point generally of scheduling is that the more and more order you have in your life, the more and more that you can properly have a base to conquer the other novel challenges that you're having to face. Whereas if you just do everything freeform, you don't have any kind of base to tackle anything.
Oh.
And people are going to say, oh, I only need 5 hours of sleep a night. I'm going to guess you're a pretty unhealthy person in general then. I'm guessing you don't work out or do anything like that. Because if you live an intense life, you're going to need 9, 10 hours of sleep a night. You're going to need to recover. And that recovery period is very important in living a good lifestyle. If you're constantly overworked all the time, I don't see how you can do anything with purpose properly.
Sleep is literally you just sitting in a dark room and doing nothing. If you can't do that successfully, then what else can you do successfully in your life?
You know, it's funny because these are all really basic things, but they all three seem to be major problems society is having right now. Western society, modernity. We can't sleep, we eat like shit, and we don't work out.
And I believe all those things are done purposefully to keep the masses constantly so that they can never pay attention to the real issues, so that they're easy to be manipulated.
One thing that helps me go to sleep so much easier is that in front of my sort of computer area that I'm at, there's just a giant window and I just have the blinds open. I have the window open, so I'm getting fresh air. I know exactly what time of day it is in all of the time. So my body understands sleep is gone, it's time to go to sleep. Whereas if you're under artificial lights the entire time for your entire life, your sleep schedule is just going to be terrible because you're making it terrible. Goes back into the point that your body is designed to work perfectly. Human bodies are not designed to be indoors under fluorescent or LED lights all day.
Now, I want to ask a question. Do any of you drink coffee?
My sort of other content creation is playing a video game really well. I felt at that point that I needed caffeine to perform properly because having caffeine allowed me to click better and click faster. And within 2 months of me getting rid of caffeine, I had hit this rank called Challenger, which is the top rank in a super competitive game. I wasn't able to sort of click better than I was on caffeine as soon as I quit, but I noticed that my ability to see the game as a full picture and understand things on a more macro level, and my decision making was all way, way better. I wasn't tunnel visioning so much. It's almost like after I got rid of caffeine completely, I could sort of like see in the matrix. I could predict what everybody was going to do, and I understood things on a deeper level. Whereas when I was on caffeine, not only was it ruining my sleep, but it was also ruining my performance in the long term.
So to use a hockey metaphor, your shots on goal went down, but your scoring went up.
Yeah, exactly.
That goes to show how even caffeine is sort of a mild drug and how people haven't experienced what it's like to have this different perspective without being pumped full of all these different chemicals.
Pretty much everybody is like, oh, don't talk to me. I haven't had my caffeine yet.
I hate that. I will say really quick, I do caffeine. So I'm in the throes of a very aggressive caffeine addiction.
Yeah, I was addicted to it forever. It's definitely really, really difficult to get on. I was heavily overdosing on caffeine. I think I was getting up to like 1,500 milligrams, 2,000 milligrams a day.
That is insane. I thought I was doing a lot. I capped myself at 400 milligrams a day.
Yeah, so I had a very severe tolerance for it to a super unhealthy amount. As soon as I got off of it completely cold turkey, I had 3 days of being just fine. And then the next 3 days, I was just completely bedridden and I couldn't eat anything. I tried to eat multiple times, but I just literally couldn't move from my bed for like 3 days. It was not fun. And that's not a condemnation of getting off of caffeine. That's a condemnation of caffeine. This is something that my body is so used to and so dependent on that like I am dependent on an outside drug at that point, and it's not making me healthy. Whereas you should be able to exist throughout the world without having all of these random little drugs to get you through the day. That's a general concept that you see in most people's lives, is that they work these shitty jobs and they need Netflix, porn, and Doritos to be anesthetics for the pain and shitty terribleness of their lives.
Yeah, and that would go to and support my love of schedule, in that you put as many fulfilling things into your day as possible, so that when the hour of the Netflixing and porno rolls around, you're too tired to partake in that degeneracy. You're just asleep.
If you schedule relaxation time, like if you schedule your video gaming time, you will enjoy it much more once you've actually done things. Once you have exercised and done productive things throughout the day, the relaxation time of scrolling through YouTube videos is much, much more enjoyable, because most people, without that kind of scheduling, they'll just procrastinate and put off the productive work while watching the YouTube videos. And you start to feel guilty for enjoying things. Whereas if you enjoy things after you get the work done, then there is no feeling of guilt, and you can just exist in the moment and just enjoy something for what it is, like the Become a 10 podcast or other various podcasts on the Iron Age archive.
That's a great point, Yasuke. When you schedule something, you get that excitement that it's coming up, which is really fun.
I don't know anybody who made progress without a workout plan, who just goes to the gym doing anything. You need structure, you need something to be measurable, and having a plan is better than having no plan.
Yep.
Yes.
Well, now we've moved to the section where I get to ask you guys some questions and then answer some of my own questions if I think it's relevant. We had Laurentian ask us, because we're doing a piece called Become a 10, he asked us, what is a 5? What is normal? What is average now?
I'm never interested in what is normal, because I'm always looking at what is excellent, what is the best, what levels can we push further on. Now, if we look at what is normal today, it is terrible. It's normal to be severely obese. I read something recently, the number of obese children under 12 increased from like 30% to like 40% during lockdown. Now, that's normal. What is normal is a bad measure of what is good. It would be great if what is normal is good, but it's not always the case. You should always look at exemplars as what is excellent to be guiding lights. I've never seen something normal as a guiding light to look up to. Now, maybe that's what we need to look up to in the beginning. We should always be pushing for the next level, in my opinion.
Yeah, and even the people who aren't obese are still incredibly unhealthy and basically skinny fat. They have no muscle mass. They are in constant chronic pain. They have all of these issues that is the normal. Just because you're not obese doesn't mean you're actually making it. This is a common thing that people can get into the mindset of, oh, I'm better than the average, therefore I'm fine. The average and the normal, quote unquote, is so far below. If we're trying to become 10s, these people are like negative 20s. It's on such a ridiculous level that don't think that just because you are above average that's acceptable. It's not, because of what level normal and the average is. You should strive to be the best that you can be, or at least the best that you're willing to be, and will yourself to be the best you can be.
Yeah, this is called Become a 10, not settle for 7.
To Steelman Lawrence's point, I think he's really asking something like, what is realistic for him? Now, I would say that as a general lifestyle, you should want to be able to see your children grow up, be able to play with them, even be able to get up out of bed every day without moving pains. And those things are completely achievable. You don't want to become a superstar bodybuilder or this great strength athlete or anything like that. You just need to be able to move with your body without pain in a graceful manner.
And there's one really interesting thing that a lot of people just don't know and they don't understand, is that within tribal societies, like hunter-gatherer societies, the testosterone levels of men do not go down. Old men that are 60, 70 plus within tribal societies have the same testosterone, more or less, as young men. That just goes into the sort of like use it or lose it philosophy, is that if you're not using your testosterone, if you're not using your masculine energy to do something, you're going to lose that value. A lot of people here who are listening to this might be young. It might be quote unquote okay now for you to not do these things and you'll get by more or less okay. But you can't do that in the future. That's not going to be sustainable. So many people have this idea that as soon as you hit 30, you just start to naturally become super unhealthy. And the better way of framing it is that in your 20s, you can get away with doing more unhealthy things to your body. Whereas when you hit something like 30, your choices actually matter. If you made unhealthy choices, you are now unhealthy. But if you've made healthy choices, like the athletic peak for a lot of athletes is around like 27 to 33. Some of the best athletes are 33 or maybe even a little bit higher than that. There's no reason for you to be degenerating when you hit 30. And even if you are at that point, there's still so much that can be salvaged.
You can still become a 10 in your age group.
Mm-hmm.
It has nothing to do with, I can't be Wayne Gretzky. I can't be this peak physical specimen. Therefore, why even try? It's not become Wayne Gretzky. It's become a 10. In your wheelhouse, you have these gifts and talents and these natural abilities that you can hone alongside working out and getting healthy. Become a 10 in that arena. Don't worry about peak testosterone. Don't worry about TRT. Don't worry about all these different chemical aspects. Eat right and work out and do your schedule. That's going to make you a 10. That's going to contribute to you becoming a 10.
That's a really important thing, is to not overcomplicate things. That's something you see so much with people in fitness or like armchair bodybuilders, is that they'll just try to super overcomplicate everything. Whereas everything that it comes to all of these fitness principles, how to eat right and how to sleep right and how to do all these things are very, very, very simple. They are hard, but they are simple. So if you're trying to overcomplicate things, you're just doing nothing but hurting yourself.
Yeah, there's no shortcuts. There's no easy way to do this stuff. There's no hack.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
It's just discipline. It's a lot of discipline and patience.
After a certain point, it gets to the point to where you feel like you need to work out.
Yep.
To where if you miss a workout, you'll feel like, damn, I can't go throughout my day. And you start to get addicted to the feeling of working out and addicting of feeling good. It is kind of a drug in that sense. And that it's a drug that makes you feel good. When you do it, it makes you want to do it more.
Yeah, it's an ethic you develop over time, becomes your virtue, becomes a part of you. Laurentian talks about this, how your environment is where you can walk in a day. It's walking distance. And it goes back to the idea of keep it simple. Keep your world simple, keep your plans simple, but tackle those things with intensity. Go hard at those things, but don't overcomplicate it. You can't do a million different things at 1000% all the time. That's ridiculous. But you can tackle a few things with great intensity. If you keep it simple, you will improve. You will become the best version of yourself over time. You will level up.
And complexity doesn't equal good. There's this idea in manufacturing called deep simplicity, which is a complex system simplified to the point where it's distilled so simply that it can only work.
I mean, you look at Super Nintendos from back in the day. How many moving parts do they have? Like, they have the two little flaps where you put the cartridge in, and that's it. So it's very hard for those to actually break down. And those have been here for so long, and most of them still work. Whereas you look at other more complex consoles that have more moving pieces, they have so many more issues, because even if something has a 0.0001% chance of failure, if you have 1,000 of those, at a certain point, you almost guarantee failure.
Oh, yeah, good point.
And when you implement something like barbell training into your program, into your lifestyle, it becomes a sort of anchor where you can start formulating your life around it. If you want to go that far, it makes your life simpler, where you know your priorities, you know how to schedule things, you will make time for these things.
For those of us who are not already in the process of becoming a 10 or working out, where should someone start?
Most important thing is diet. The fuel that you have is the biggest and easiest thing for you to fix. So first off, just take any junk food that's in your house and just throw it away. Just straight up throw out all of this processed food. Get new food and get a new environment to where the easiest decisions, the easiest food to make is the healthy food. That's a big problem, is that people will exist in houses when they're trying to get healthy, where they have the option of making nice steak and eggs that'll take 10 to 20 minutes to cook, or they have the box of Oreos and they're hungry. Which one are they going to take? They're going to take the box of Oreos. So remove yourself from temptations and get your diet started off, and then just get moving. Just do something. It doesn't matter what. Like, go for a walk, do some push-ups, do some squats, like do anything that you can do that is more than what you're doing right now. Get yourself in the habit of thinking about just doing, because that's the most important part for you, is just to get started.
You also have to think long term, think of things in terms of consequence. That Oreo today, well, it's more like those 2 packages of Oreos today that you eat are going to result in diabetes later on, a heart attack, a stroke, or you can't even move out of your chair anymore. What you do today affects tomorrow. If you're thinking about surviving this whole thing, this whole breakdown civilization, but your body is breaking down right in front of you, you're not going to make it. So start doing these simple things. There are many great beginner programs out there. I recommend getting a coach if you can do that. Even joining a martial arts gym if you're into that, if you want to do something more community-based, just get started and don't give up.
Or a HEMA group, or if there's an archery range somewhere within walking distance or something like that, turn it into a ritual. Doing my archery. I'm going to walk to the archery range, shoot for an hour, then walk back.
Yeah, don't pick a gym that's 5 hours away. You're never going to go there. Pick something that's close to you. Or if that's too far, or if you're introverted, start making a home gym. It'll be the best investment you make.
If you don't have enough money to get the full home gym set up like I do, just get a pull-up bar. You can get a pull-up bar for like $20, and there's so much that you can do with that. That, along with a couple bodyweight things. If you don't have enough, get some cans and canisters and just put them in a backpack and then do some squats or something. There's so many things that you can do for free that there's no excuse for you to not do something.
If you're buying a lot of junk food right now, save all that money you've spent on junk food and buy a barbell and some weights.
Ooh.
Yes.
Now, it's going to suck in the beginning, but it's going to be worth it. Just stop buying junk food, save that money up, get a barbell and some weights. This is just the physical aspect of becoming a 10. There are other aspects like spirituality and mentality, and even more than that, even intellectually. But begin with the physical, and over time, you'll add on these other aspects too.
Increasing your physical capabilities will increase your mental capabilities, and it'll also change the way that you think. You start thinking like a winner. You stop thinking like a loser. You stop being super pessimistic about everything because you already know what it's like to win.
Yes.
And if you know what it's like to win in the gym, then you can understand what it's like to win in the greater spiritual war.
We want you to make it. We want our friends and our compatriots to be healthy and strong and someone we can rely on. We want you to rely on us, the royal you, the editorial. We want this community to be strong, virile, and viable.
If we wanted to harm you, we would have told you to stay at home for a year and a half, eat all this junk food, jack off to porn every day, watch the next Marvel movie, do all this stuff that's promoted all the time.
That makes us look better.
Yes, but we don't want that lifestyle. We want you to become somebody that can be looked up to. We want you to be part of our future.
We want you to become a 10.
And that begins today.
I love it. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, fellas. But we do need you, actually, to like and subscribe. And join us on IronAgeArchive.com, who is our sponsor. We'd like to thank them. Check out A Dormant Dynasty. Check out what we're doing. It's very early on for us, so we don't exactly know what we're doing. We don't really have the time or the desire to do much social media, but we're out here.